Dependency inversion, it's by far the most misunderstood of the solid principles. Oftentimes when you say dependency inversion, people say, oh yes, dependency injection, they're the dependency injection frameworks like Spring. We're going to put that to the side for a period of time here, because that's not actually what it is. There's a significant overlap, but dependency injection is much simpler. All it means is you don't call the new keyword and give a variable an implementation within the class where it's used. That's what dependency inversion is, because what you're doing is passing in your dependencies. We've been doing it the whole time. We've been doing it with Liskov substitution. That was the first time we saw this. It's this relationship here, composition. Let's have a look at why you might want to do that, and let's have a look at how that might overlap with dependency injection frameworks. Let's imagine we're creating this system, we're creating our zoo, my zoo here, and we need an admission service. So we're going to pass in an admission service to the zoo. Now the admission service is different according to which zoo is going to be used. My zoo is a generic class. It can do all kinds of very complicated things that we don't want to have to implement every single time we set up a zoo. You can almost see it like part of a framework. So this would be closed to modification. And the admission service here can be all kinds of different admission services. It can do all kinds of different things depending on which zoo it's for. If we were to declare the admission service within the zoo, saying new, that would mean for every single different zoo we implemented, we would have to implement the whole of my zoo all over again. So this is why we pass our dependencies in, because we can dictate the nature of the dependencies before we pass it into a generic object. So that should be fairly straightforward. We've been using it already, but how does that relate to dependency injection frameworks like Spring? Well, look, I'm saying we can dictate the implementations of admission service before we pass them into zoo. Where? Where are we doing that? Well, there's this nebulous concept of a calling class. So in the calling class, well, what's the calling class? Where are we actually saying new? Where are we saying admission service, my admission service equals new Australia admission service? Where are we doing that? In a standard piece of Java software, that might be in your main method. But oftentimes with modern software development, you don't have a main method, and it can get a little bit messy. Where's this client class? Where are you doing all of this? So let's imagine there was a framework invented that allowed you to wire up your implementations to your abstractions, and they would automatically be picked up in the class that needed them. Let's imagine that framework existed. Well, it does, and rather than place your new keyword and wire up your implementations within the Java code, at first with Spring it allowed you to do that in a separate class, which was an XML class. That was basically instead of just writing the new keyword within your calling class. It was more convenient, and of course there's a lot more to Spring than just this, but this is core Spring, wiring up your implementations. Now, of course, with modern Spring, we don't use XML anymore, we use annotations. And that's just an extension and a convenience of the basic solid design pattern, dependency inversion. But you don't need a framework to use dependency inversion. All you need to do is pass your dependencies in and not use the new keyword within the classes that use them. And that is the final solid principle.